All right, go ahead and start with the multiply problem up at the top. Once you get done doing your double distribution and you actually get an answer, I want you to look at it together with your groups and try to describe any relationships you see between the problem and the answer. Go ahead. Okay, so we have our final answer after we do our double distribution. We have x squared plus 9x minus 22. What kind of relationships did you guys come up with to get the 9x and the negative 22? How did we get the 9x and the negative 22? What kind of relationships did you see here?
Like X relationships, don't you? Like relationships between like.
What?
Don't you mean like the relationship between variables and like non-variables?
Not necessarily. We're looking for the relationships between the numbers in the problem and the numbers in the answer. Because what we want to be able to do, remember, factoring is undoing distribution. So we want to be able to take a problem like this and be able to factor it into the two binomials and put it into parentheses like this. So we need to look for patterns that we might be able to see from the problem and the answers. So how might we get 9 from the problem? Sorry? 11 minus 2. So we have a negative 2 and a positive 11. So when you combine negative 2 plus 11, you get 9, right? So when we add our two numbers in our parentheses, we can get the middle term. Okay, what about the negative 22? Yeah, Josh?
You multiply 11 and negative 2.
Okay, so this time we do negative 2 times 11, and we get negative 22. And that becomes this number right here. Where do these two x's come from?
Just multiply them. You multiply the x's and the problem together.
Okay, so the x's come from that x squared right there, right? So if I'm looking at going backward from this, I am looking for the numbers that multiply to this last term and add to the middle term. And those are the numbers that will go into my parentheses, right? So the numbers that multiply to the last term and add to the middle term. We call this last term C. The term without any variable on it is called C. And the term in the middle with just the regular X is called B. Okay? So this is what we're looking at here. Oops. So remember, factoring is like undoing distribution. And to undo the double distribution and put it into three terms, or excuse me, from three terms, we want to find the two numbers that multiply to C and add to B. Excuse me. So we want the numbers that multiply to C and add to B. So in our particular problem that we're looking at here, what do we need to multiply to get? If you're looking at this problem here, what do we need to multiply to get? What's my C value? 12. So I'm finding the factors of 12. So this is why we did warm up, right? So we could get working on factors. So factors of 12 would be 1 and 12, 2 and 6, 3 and 4, and then we have the flip factors, negative 1 times negative 12, negative 2 times negative 6, and negative 3 times negative 4. So there are all of our pairs of factors. So those are all the numbers that could possibly multiply to get 12. Which pair adds to get 7? Because we want to add to be the middle. 3 and 4. So this is the pair that I want, right? This pair right here, 3 and 4, because 3 times 4 is 12. 3 plus 4 is 7. Okay, so now when I'm filling in my parentheses here, so we have x squared. So what two things do I multiply together to get x squared? Yep, x and x, so x and x. And then what two factors did I use to get 7 and 12? To add to 7 and multiply to 12, what were the two factors? 3 and 4, both positive, right? So since they're both positive, it's going to be plus 3 and plus 4. And then that's my final answer. It's literally that simple, okay? Your first two spots are always going to be the x's from the x squared. And then your last two spots are going to be the two factors that I found by multiplying to get the last number, adding to get the middle number. Okay? All right, let's look at example 2. Do you guys remember what the first rule of factoring is? It's on the board.
Check GCF.
Yeah, check for a GCF, right? That's what makes this problem a little bit different. Remember with the last problem we had just an x squared out front? We did not have a number out there. That number out there makes things a little more complicated that we're not going to worry about right now. Okay? But if you notice, all three of the terms in this have a, or can be divided by 2. Okay, so what makes this one different from the last one? Has a GCF. This one has a GCF. How do we get rid of a GCF? We divide it out or factor it out. So factor it out. That's how we're going to make it look like the other one. Okay, so my GCF is 2. So I'm going to divide a 2 out of all those. So 2x squared divided by 2 is just x squared. Negative 34x divided by 2 is negative, what is that, 17x. And then 84 divided by 2 is 42, so plus 42. So you see the GCF remains part of the problem, it just goes out front. And now I'm looking inside the parentheses. So now that I've divided that GCF out, now what do I need to multiply to be? So you're ignoring the 2 out front, and I'm doing this just like I did the problem right before this. What do I need to multiply to? 42. Remember, it's multiplied to C, so I'm multiplying to 42. And what should my factors add up to?
So negative 17.
Negative 17. That's the B value. So they should multiply to 42, add to negative 17. So let's do our factors of 42 over here. And what kind of pairs am I going to be looking for here?
2.
If I'm going to get negative 17 out, I'm probably only worried about the negative pairs, right? In order to get 42, positive 42, I'm going to have to either do 2 positives or 2 negatives. I'm only worried about the negative pairs. Okay, so I'm going to skip over the positive pairs and just do my negative pairs. So I have negative 1 and negative 42. That doesn't add to negative 17. Negative 2 and negative 21. That doesn't add to negative 17. Does 3 go into 42? Yeah, it does, right? So negative 3 and negative 14. That does add to negative 17. So this is the pair that I wanted. Okay? And once I find those pairs, those go straight into the parentheses. Okay? But be careful on this answer. Anytime you take a GCF out, the GCF has to stay part of the answer. Okay, so the GCF is just going to sit out front. Now, how did we get the x squared inside the parentheses? It's not a trick question. Yep, x and x. And how did we get the negative 17 and the 42? No. Yeah, negative 3 and negative 14. Those were the two factors that I used. So since they're negative, it's going to be minus 3 and minus 14. And there's my final answer. Okay? So let's run through the process one more time. So I take out a GCF, or I look for and take out a GCF if I can. That's what I did up here, right? Once I take that out, I'm looking inside the parentheses, and I find what multiplies to C. So I find factors of that and list them out if you need to. and I need the specific pair that adds to the middle. Once I've found those two factors, those go straight into the parentheses, because the -3 and -14 is what I used to add to the middle and multiply to the end. The x squared is just what gives us the x and x. Okay? So it's literally that simple. Check for a GCF. If there is one, take it out. Find what multiplies to C and adds to B. Once you find those factors, they go straight into the parentheses. Okay? Can I get a comfort level? Okay. Go ahead and try these A and B together with your groups. Go ahead.
Class.
Okay, guys. So there was not a GCF. Sorry for the people outside of my classroom. I forgot to record, so I'm just going to talk through this one really quick. So there is not a GCF. I start by finding the factors of 25. So the factors of 25 are all listed out here. I want the specific pair that adds to -10 in the middle. So that's -5 and -5. And then the v squared breaks into v and v. The two factors from -10 and 25 break into the -5 and -5. All right, so over on B, we figured out there is a GCF of 3. We're dividing a 3 out of every piece. So 3x squared divided by 3 is the x squared. -30x divided by 3 is -10x. And 75 divided by 3 is +25. So you can see the numbers now that we're multiplying to and adding to are different. So you always got to make sure and take out the GCF first. So now what am I trying to multiply to B? What am I trying to multiply to now? Hello? What am I trying to multiply to now? What am I finding the factors of? The 25, right? So I'm finding the factors of 25. And I want the factors that add to -10. So we just figured that out actually on the last problem. -5 and -5. So I have x minus 5 and x minus 5. Yep. I was just getting ready to say that. Don't forget to bring the GCF down. So now this is my final answer. Okay, any questions? So pull out the GCF. Then you're finding the multiples of the last term that add to the middle term. And those go straight into their parentheses. All right, let's go to example 3 on the...
Can we show you one and make it wrong?
Okay, what's kind of different about this problem? Let me ask it this way. What am I trying to multiply to this time?
Number of the variable.
Nope.
A coefficient.
I'm still trying to multiply to C, but what is C this time?
Negative.
Negative, right? So my C value is negative. So I kind of prepped you with this on the warm-up, so we don't need to fill in all these extra note things here. But we are going to go ahead and do this problem. So I'm trying to multiply to get to -27. Okay? So remember, what kind of pairs are we going to look at when we have a negative number that we're trying to multiply to? Negative positive, right? So I could have -1 times 27 or 1 times -27. Neither of those adds to 6. 2 doesn't go into 27. 3 does. 3 and 6. So -3 and 6. Or 3 and -6. So which, oh, those don't add, wait, what am I doing? Why'd you guys let me do that? It's not 3 and 6. It's 3 and 9. Come on. All right, so -3 and 9 or 3 and -9. That's better. Okay, which of those adds to 6? -3 and 9. Okay, so I have my factors now. I can go ahead and do my parentheses. So m squared becomes m and m. And then the numbers that gave me my 6 and -27 were -3 and +9. So m minus 3, m plus 9. Okay, any questions there? Let's look at example 4. That looks fun, doesn't it? Okay. Is there a GCF on example 4?
Yes.
Yes. What is it?
6.
I can divide a 6 out of all of them. What else can I take out? I can only take out a single x, right? Because the last one has a single x. So I can take out 6 and x. So my GCF is 6x. Okay, so 6x to the third divided by 6x is just x squared. Negative 18 divided by 6 is negative 3. And x squared divided by x leaves me with a single x. And then negative 108 divided by 6 is negative 18. And the x's cancel on that term. Okay, so I've taken out my GCF. Now it's time to break down into my two sets of parentheses, so I need my factors. So I'm finding numbers that multiply to what?
18.
What?
Negative 18.
Negative 18. So I'm finding numbers that multiply to negative 18. So I have negative 1 and 18, or 1 and negative 18. Neither of those add to negative 3. Negative 2 and 9. 2 and negative 9. Neither of those add to negative 18. Negative 3 and 6. 3 and negative 6. And the one that adds to negative 3 is the last one here, 3 and negative 6. And guys, as you get better at these, you don't have to list out all of those pairs. If you can jump straight to it and you know it's 3 and negative 6, that's fine. Okay, I don't necessarily expect to see you writing them all out. If you need to, there's nothing wrong with that. Okay, that's perfectly fine. You can do that. That's why I show it here as a strategy. But if you don't need to, you don't need to take the time to do it. Okay, so the 6x stays out front. I get the x squared from x and x. And I get the negative 3 and negative 18 from a positive 3 and a negative 6. So don't forget, super important, if you ever take out a GCF in the beginning, it does show up at the end as part of the final answer, just sitting out front. Okay? All right, go ahead and do the try this at the very end. Okay, so you can check your answer up on the board. I do have a GCF of 2. So I divide each of those pieces by a 2 to get x squared minus 5x minus 14. I find the factors of my c value, so negative 14 is over here. I find all my factors, and I want the pair that adds to the middle. So the pair that adds to the middle is 2 and negative 7. So that positive 2 and negative 7 goes straight into my parentheses. Don't forget to bring the GCF down as part of the answer.